Hello and welcome. My name is Alonda Carter and I am the Recovering Hunbot. I create anti-MLM videos, so if that is your jam, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you turn on that notification bell and give this video a thumbs up. Today's video is my response to some drama that happened last week with another YouTuber, an anti-MLMer, Emily Leah. Now, Emily responded to the person who reacted to her with so much dignity and grace, and I am so glad she did. Did a great job, girl. And others in the anti-MLM community also did their response videos. And so I've been kind of marinating on this. I actually made the video one time before, and I've been just kind of thinking, like, how do I want to say this? I need to redo this, so this is my redo. So if you want to hear what I have to say about last week's MLM drama, then stay tuned, keep on watching, and we'll get into it. Like I said, Emily responded with such dignity and grace, and yes, I am so very proud of her. But when I look at her, she reminds me so much of some of my former students. I'm a former classroom teacher, in case you didn't know that. I've taught literally, from 3-year-olds through college level, and now all my former students, they're like married and having kids and stuff. So it's like so bizarre. They're supposed to stay, little bitty, how I remember them. But anyway, I look at Emily and I think, wow, she could have been one of my students. And my former students, they're bright and they're just, I'm so proud of what they're doing. And so I feel very protective of Emily. And I'm so glad that other people rallied around her. Now, what I'm going to say is going to be a little bit different, because when I saw that Monat Hun, and I did not watch all of her video because I really didn't want to give it views, and it really, it's the typical stuff that people in MLMs say. And so I just I've heard that before, and why go down that road again, so to speak. Also, when Savannah Marie did her response, she did a lot of little clips from it and stuff, and so I got to see a little bit more, and Monica did a great job in her response as well. So I just, I didn't watch the whole thing. I just didn't have time for all of that. But the thing is when I look at that woman, I see myself. I see myself when I was a Beachbody Hunbot. I see myself when I believed so strongly and so hardly that Beachbody was going to provide this freedom, that if you've been in MLM, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't been in MLM, but you've been impacted in some way because a friend or a relative or someone has been involved, and so it's rubbed against you, then you know what I mean in terms of putting forth this whole vision of financial freedom, residual income, and all that sort of stuff. Now, for myself, when I woke up, I couldn't help but see the sun. And before I started doing anti-MLM videos, what I was focusing on initially was to help people who were creating online courses. You see, I also have a background in instructional design. I've designed and developed hundreds of courses over 20 years. And I see how people are putting together courses, and I can tell very easily that it's not following, instructional design principles. Typically, people who are putting these courses together have a background in marketing, and marketing is a skill that's separate from instructional design. It's not the same. You may know how to market, but you don't know all the different strategies to use to help people learn in the way that someone who has a background in instructional design does. Well, those videos nobody really cared about, And then because of everything I'd gone through with MLM, I thought I was going to do some kind of law of attraction type stuff. So yeah, that didn't work either, and I'm glad. But once I saw the sun, once when I woke up, I started digging into multi-level marketing. I wanted to know more. And this is the conversation that I want to have with that Monat Hun. What if everything you believe isn't exactly what you've been told? What if we in the anti-MLM community who are speaking out, what if there's truth to what we're saying? Now, I'm not saying watch my videos, although I do interviews and there are some that I think could be very helpful to you. But I am going to recommend to you some resources that I think might help you see what we see who have been through MLM, realize what it is, realize the destruction it's causing, not just in our country, but across the globe. I mean, literally everywhere. Now, I'm going to put a link to these resources in the description. So the first thing I'm going to recommend is Dr. John Taylor's paper, and it's titled, I have it written down, so let me look. And where is it? Okay, it's For or Against MLM. I believe that's what it's called. Let me see. Hang on. I have it pulled up. The Case for and Against MLM. That is actually available on the FTC website, but I'm going to put a link to it, and you can look through that. In this paper, he analyzed 500 compensation plans. I want to say over 500, but I know it was at least 500 compensation plans, and I think that would be very helpful. I'm also going to put a link to a paper that was written by Douglas Brooks, and his paper is Coercive Techniques of Business Opportunity Cults. Now, this paper is in draft form. The last time we spoke, well, no, not the last time we spoke, but when he sent this to me, he had presented it at an international conference, and I know that he was going to submit it to a peer-reviewed journal. I don't know if he has done that yet because we haven't touched on that. But I'm going to invite you to read that as well. Something else I'm going to invite you to check out, and I will put a link to Stephen's website, is Stephen Hassan's bite model. Because oftentimes people who are in the anti-MLM world will use Stephen's model and, overlay their MLM experience upon that model. So I'm going to invite you to check that out. I'm also going to invite you to check out an interview that Stephen did with Doug Brooks and also Robert Fitzpatrick. And I'll put a link to that. That's here on YouTube. It's on Stephen's channel. Also, Robert Fitzpatrick's website is pyramidschemealert.org. Robert is coming out with a book this year called Ponzi-nomics, and it goes into the history of MLM. I interviewed him on my channel a few weeks ago, so I will make sure that I put a link to that as well, and also to my playlist of Hey Hun, You Woke Up, which is basically like a podcast that I do here on YouTube, but it also goes out to like 10 different platforms that do podcasts, including Stitcher and iTunes and stuff like that. So I just want you to think, what if what we're saying, there's some truth to it? What if what you believed could possibly be wrong? Just the possibility of think maybe there is some merit to what people are talking about. You don't have to agree with us right away, and I know you probably won't, because this is the thing, is someone who is involved in a something that causes thought reform, because that's what MLMs do. They cause you to change who you are. There's the person you were before you joined MLM. There's the person you are because of MLM. And then when and if you do escape, there's the person afterwards that's trying to merge all these different parts of you together, because the person that you really are is kind of like, in the closet right now, so to speak. You're in the shadows. It's more that you have your MLM personality. I want to say it was Margaret Singer who said all of this first. I can't remember, but Margaret Singer is very big in the world in terms of, analyzing cults and stuff. So there's some wonderful things that she put out. And listening to her and listening to Chris Shelton, I'll put a link to his channel, and I'll also put a link to John Attack's channel as well. They're both former Scientologists. And I'll put a link to Andy the Fellows, his channel as well. He was involved in an internet cult. I actually interviewed him not too long ago as well, and we talked about the law of attraction and how it worked for him and the cult that he was involved in, and I talked about it in terms of me being involved in Beachbody. So if you just open your mind a crack, just a tiny little fissure of maybe there's truth in what people are saying. I think if you actually start looking at it from, and don't take my word for it, don't take Savannah Marie's, don't take Monica Sambida's, don't take Emily Leah's word for it. Do your own research. start looking at it critically, because here's the thing. What MLM will do to you is shut down critical thinking. I didn't realize that when I was involved in Beachbody, and at the time I would have sworn I'm thinking all on my own. But what I now know, once I have stepped away and I start, really looking at what's going on, and I start educating myself in how other destructive type organizations transform people, I start to see how those things were used on me. As a matter of fact, not too long ago, I did a reaction video. It was on a Beachbody team call, and I went over the business activity tracker, and I showed how the bite model fits along with that. So when I look at this woman, I see someone, like I said, I see myself. I remember when I was so desperate, so desperate to maintain my rank. Now, if you've been on my channel for a while, you know that I made it to the first rank in Beachbody, because you start out your coach, and then the first rank you hit is Emerald, meaning you have someone on your left, someone on your right. So I had 2 coaches underneath me, but I could not maintain that. It was a struggle trying to do that, let alone trying to get people to, say yes to the products or, anything else. And I'm not alone in that. I have a very dear friend of mine that I met when I was in Beachbody, and she's still one of my best friends. And she's out of it now, and she made it to what's called the diamond level, which means that in total, because 2 people underneath her had to hit Emerald, but in total there was like 12 people underneath her. She couldn't maintain that. BB, who I did her story a while back, and I'll put a link to BB's story. She was a top-ranking Beachbody coach. And what she noticed is that, you know how you have to duplicate things? They always say that's duplicatable, that you just follow this process, you follow these steps. In Beachbody, it's the 4 vital behaviors, which includes inviting, personal development, recognition, and being a product of the product, proof that you are a product of the product. So it's those 4 things. And all of that is, serving to transform who you are. But BB noticed that what she was trying to teach her coaches, she was teaching, and she put together all kinds of things for them. They didn't have the success that she did. Now, BB came into this entire, MLM thing already with a network, so to speak, and that was through her husband. And that's something that I've noticed again and again and again. If you don't have a network prior to entering MLM, who's going to say yes? You run out of family and friends. And my experience, which is very similar to so many people's experience, very few raised their hand and said yes. And those who did, I think they did it because they loved me, and they just basically wanted to, shut me up kind of a thing. It's like that support that you think you're going to get. Nobody's really interested in those things. And what's so very interesting is all of the things that I learned was when I was running around on the internet trying to make everything work, because I did work hard. Something that you did say in your video was that, and you put it next to blog about, people just didn't work. And that's something that people always say about people who didn't succeed in MLM. You just didn't work hard enough. Well, I'll tell you, I did. I ran around doing all the things, and I know that Monica did. I know that, Leah did. I know that all these people that I've spoken to, that I've told their stories about, and other people I just talked to, people are working many hours a week towards this. And yes, we may know you're not going to make a lot of money to begin with, and you probably don't know what my story is, so I'll truncate it. I am a breast cancer survivor. When I went back to work, I was working as an instructional designer for an oil company. The day I went back to work, I was laid off. Well, fast forward a few months later, I met someone who was my neighbor, and she was a Beachbody coach and said she made 6 figures. So didn't, but that spoke to me because I lost my high-paying job, and I joined. And, I have cracked many a nuts in my days and figured out how to do things. And I just knew that I could, figure this out too. I did all the things again and again and again. Ran around all over the place doing what I was told, looking for new advice from other courses and different things, it didn't work. And something that I have noticed is oftentimes when people are selling their courses, one of the things that they will say is, well, this worked for me, so I'm going to teach you my system. And what happens is the system that works for you doesn't work for other people. And that's exactly what Bibi found out, is everything she was teaching people to do that worked for her didn't work for them. But like I was saying, in terms of what I was taught about how you do social media and marketing and all that kind of stuff, so much of what I was taught, there is truth to it. But the thing is, people have to want what you have to offer. They didn't want what I had to offer in terms of Beachbody. No one was interested in that. People became interested in what I had to say when I started speaking out against multi-level marketing. That's what Monica found out. That's what Leah found out. That's what Savannah Marie found out. And so, yeah, we put out content about this because people are looking for it. People have been burned by MLMs. Check out r/anti-MLM. If you have not been on Reddit, go and look and see what people are saying about multi-level marketing. It's none too nice. Think just for a moment. See if you can think outside of your MLM personality and start looking into it about why is it people are saying these things? Why are people speaking out? What's going on there? Because it's not that we have malice for you or any individual who joins an MLM. It's because we know it depends on endless recruitment. And that's something that Robert Fitzpatrick goes in on. And he's talked about this multiple times on his blog, pyramidschemealert.org. As have other people. David Brer is also someone that I would recommend, and his blog is MLM, The American Dream Made Nightmare. He and I talk almost daily, at least. We talk often, And when I went down this rabbit hole of MLM, I knew that I would need to surround myself with people who had gone before me, people who had made an impact in the world. And that's why I reached out to Doug. That's why I reached out to David. That's why I reached out to Robert. Is I, myself, the kind of person I am, and I didn't do this with MLM, I didn't do the research that I normally do. Because I always research everything. But, when there is this kind of mixed up persuasion techniques that are used on you, you kind of like drop away those things that you normally may check out. And I'm not the only person that this has happened to. So I know that does happen, that people just get sucked in by how it's marketed towards you. But there's the truth that's out there is very few people actually make any money. As a matter of fact, with Beachbody, 74% of them, according to the income disclosure statement from 2018, 74% who enter are just at coach. I want to say it's in the 20% range. I don't remember what it is exactly. But, make it to Emerald. Now, they don't talk about are they able to maintain Emerald or not. But that goes back to like my friend who wasn't able to maintain Diamond. She couldn't do it. And she did all the things. And she joined at a time when there's a successful coach by the name of Bonnie Ingalls. She joined at when Bonnie did. Bonnie has been able to build an enormous team. My friend did all the same things that she did. What's the difference? I suspect that Bonnie probably had some sort of network, just like my friend Bibi had a network. She had hundreds of coaches underneath her, and she wasn't making six figures. I figured out she was making between $50,000 to $60,000 a year, which isn't bad, but that doesn't account for what she's spending in order to, quote, make that money. And that's one of the things that you're never taught in Beachbody. And maybe you know this since you ran your own business before about, how to do kind of a balance sheet of, what comes in versus what goes out. But I want you to start thinking about these things. Just become open to looking at some resources outside of the anti-MLM community that you see on Instagram, that you see on Twitter, that you see on Facebook, that you see on YouTube. Look at some of the things that I told you. Start listening to some of these people that talk about destructive cults on their channels. You might all of a sudden start seeing how those same techniques have been used on you. Also think about, if you have built a team, how many people are struggling even though they're doing the things that you're telling them to do? How many people leave, and then how many people do you need to go and recruit? How easy is it for you to maintain your rank? Think about those things, because there's a lot of people who are losing time and money. Myself, when I put it all together, it's well over $10,000 of what I lost. So, I'm just offering to you to consider being open to the possibility that maybe there is some merit in what we have to say. And then start doing your own research. And when I look at this woman, like I said, I see myself. I can remember, oh gosh, I wanted a friend of mine to get a challenge pack. And if you don't know what a challenge pack is, at the time, it was Beachbody On Demand, Shakeology, which is on auto ship, which typically most all MLMs, it all depends on auto ship, so you can get that personal volume and all of that. And she was calling it a pyramid scheme, and I deflected with, of course it's not a pyramid scheme. I mean, we have a product pyramid. Schemes are illegal. All those things that you're taught to say. I was doing all of that. And I had known her, and I mean, I can remember sobbing because I was struggling just to hold on, and I wanted to build something so badly, and it wasn't happening. No matter what I did, no matter where I went, no one was interested. And it wasn't until anti-MLM stuff started coming into my personal bubble, and I became interested in this, like, well, what's going on here? And as soon as I started realizing how people in MLMs are perceived by others that they approach, I just went, holy crap, there's something here. And that's why I started researching, and that's why I found Doug, and I found David, and I found Robert, and started developing relationships with them, because it's like, there's stuff going on here, and this is not good for people. I mean, there are so many people that have, I think it's David that told me, or it was Robert, one of the two of them, but they told me about, people that they know that attempted suicide, or there was someone who did attempt suicide, or did actually make it and did kill themselves. I mean, people across the world are injured greatly, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, all the leaves, because of MLM. That's what the problem is typically, it's not like people are rushing to go and get the products that MLM has to offer. Typically, the people who consume those products are within the MLM because you need PV. Now, they're saying, oh, you don't need to do this, you don't need to do that. But if you want to, rank up, be paid, get those different kind of bonuses, you better pay into the system. Traditional jobs, you don't pay to play, but you do in MLM. And that's what we find to be problematic. The paying to pay, paying to play, if I can get it all right. Playing to pay, and the need for endless chain recruitment. And I want to say, because I've done it with Beachbody, and I put up the little graphic that I made. I can't remember the number of rounds, but I think there's another graphic floating around that typically is 13 rounds, that once you go through 13 rounds of everybody recruiting, whatever that number is on the graphic, and like I said, I don't remember right now, and hopefully I'll pop it up on the video when I'm editing, you run out of people on this globe, And if everybody can do this, because it's a low-cost type thing, so it sounds great, low cost, you want to be your own boss, you want to be an entrepreneur, but yet there's somebody else who is the CEO, you're not really the CEO, you don't make any decisions about how much something costs or what products are going to be offered. You're just basically a distributor for them. You're an independent contractor, because if you make at least $600 a year, then you're going to get a 1099, and that's, being an independent contractor. I've done independent contractor work as an instructional designer. Get the same thing. So it's not the same as, really being your own boss. So those are some of our concerns, and I just invite you to just open your mind to the possibility that what we have to say, there's merit behind it. There is no one who has joined an MLM that I have malice and hatred towards, and the other people who are in the community, we don't have malice and hatred and just want to ruin people. It is the fact that the way these companies are organized, depending on people consuming the products themselves, depending on the people recruiting others, that is problematic. Because if everybody says yes, if we play with it that everybody says yes, that's when you run out of people. And if everybody doesn't say yes, that means that people are not going to be successful. And most people are not. I also want to invite you, especially to an interview that I did with my friend Dave Vaughn, because he looked at it through economic eyes. And it's a two-parter. And he's in Iraq right now, so there's like some, it's not the best connection, but if you can just kind of get past that and just drop that and listen to what he has to say, I think it might help. I just really want you to think about maybe, just maybe, what we're saying, there's truth to it. I invite you to that. If you enjoy anti-MLM content, then I do invite you also to subscribe. I appreciate the time that you spend with me. And remember, it is up to us to share our stories, share our truth, and get the word out there. That's how we enact change in the world, is by speaking out against things that we believe are wrong. And remember, change starts now.